In this episode, I am speaking with several software engineering leaders. We are debating the futuristic Las Vegas sphere, Zoom ordering their staff back to the office, a major new update to the Tesla robot, a massive new blockchain project called WorldCoin, and the recent deepfake scam of Mr. Beast. Welcome back to the podcast.
The Alfie Whattam podcast.
Okay, so let's start with the Las Vegas sphere. This cost $2.3 billion to build. It's the largest screen on Earth. It seats 17,600 people inside, and it's a new form of entertainment and advertising. You can see inside there some amazing shots of what it looks like, and you can have brand new experiences, brand new productions, brand new entertainment experiences within the Las Vegas sphere. Let's get your takes, your opinions on this. We'll go left to right. Paolo, what's your opinion, your thoughts when you see this new technology?
I mean, that's funny because in France we have what we call la Géode, la Cité des Sciences.
Okay.
And it basically it's also like a big sphere, right? And you go inside and you have this immersive experience. And I thought when I was a kid it was already amazing, right? But when I see this now with like the screens and 1 million screens, like to make a huge one, all the sound, all the tech that is inside I think it's just amazing. Like I want to try, basically.
I definitely do as well, mate. Yeah.
So I think like obviously the downside of it, like we're talking about climate change and ecology. So it could be like, but they have plans to reduce or at least power the entire sphere on only renewable energy. But again, like we'll see how. I think they say like 2026 or 7, something like that. But yeah, it's just an amazing technology, something to definitely to try.
That's cool that you've tried something similar in France. Maybe not on that scale, but my version of that is like an IMAX cinema or something, which is not quite as good, right? But what was your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, when I thought about that, first I thought about the IMAX, which is, I mean, it was amazing when I tried. I think probably the first time in the 90s, I think in New York.
Sure.
And then, but then I started thinking back, and I was remembering this like when I was a child, like many decades ago, like this thing with, for the name now of this thing, like planetarium. I don't know if it's called like this.
Yeah.
In Buenos Aires, that they had these projections on the ceiling, basically. So it was a whole
the space
thing.
one.
Yeah, so basically everything, all the universe, and it was amazing. I had this fascination with this thing, and I mean, so I think I would love to try this again. I mean, and see if I get fascinated, this fascination again with this technology. Obviously, it's impressive because they have all these things with smell as well, and wind and temperature. I'm curious to see how they solve those problems, right? Because at that scale, like solving the problem of how you distribute smell or heat or how the sounds, it supposedly sounds exactly the same everywhere. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to achieve. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think this mentioned that they were going to build it in London as well.
Well, they talked about it.
Yeah, so I don't need to travel to Las Vegas. So I'm waiting for that one.
I needed to come here. Yeah, I don't want to go to them. But I heard that they were going to do it here at the same time as the Vegas one. Whereas Vegas is built, like London hasn't even started construction yet. Yeah. So, it might be a few years until we're getting this. And I think it will be a smaller scale version as well. This one was like 2 billion or something. The UK one was going to be like 700-800 million, so maybe like
tennis ball sized, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly, like the UK version of it. But what was your view when you saw that clip and that new technology? What was your reaction?
So it made me think that the gig going experience hasn't changed for a long time. It's pretty much like you know when your parents, let's say, went to a gig, it was pretty much the same thing. Starts at 8, finishes at like 11 or 12, and it's still the same. People playing in front of an audience there. So what's great is, like in quite a few industries, we've actually upgraded the experience itself. It's actually something fundamentally different. And so I think there's a sense of, really playing around with the concept. If entertainment is all about immersion and escapism, it's hard to see how it can be better than something like that, let's say.
Yeah, no, it really, really goes like a lot deeper, doesn't it, than just watching a movie. Like you mentioned, smells and sensors, and I can't remember exactly how many, but there were so many speakers in that thing, like built into the chairs, built everywhere around you to give you that full spatial audio and surround sound. So this is a concept, guys. Like this is like a brand new idea in theory. It builds on and it stands on the shoulders of the technologies which which you mentioned about a second ago, just from concert gigs to the observatory to what you saw in France and so on. But what do you think about this being replicated around the world, like globally? Like, if we had to make predictions like 5 years from now, do you think this will be just the Vegas thing, it will just remain there? Or do you think we'll see one in London, we'll see one in New York, we'll see one in Paris, we'll see one in Tokyo? If you had to predict yes or no, let's work backwards. What would you say?
So I'd say, to me, it's the concert going equivalent to the Concorde. Really nice idea, but there's a lot of practical things that means it only works in a certain place and for a certain time as well. So yes, they might build one in London, but good luck getting planning permission for what is a massive giant ball in the middle of a city. I mean, so yeah, it's conservation area. I think that would struggle to pass.
Yeah. What would y'all take?
Yeah, I think Stratford, they want to build it, and there's like all this discussion about like they could use that space for building houses, and because there are so many restrictions. So yes, as you say, it's very difficult. I guess also, I mean, when you think about the numbers, it's like $2.3 billion, right, to build that thing. I guess that includes the technologies that they developed and all the initial effort to make that, and later on it's going to be much cheaper to replicate that. So I guess it's going to be like the IMAX. The IMAX, in a way, I think it started probably in a couple of places, and then it's not like it's in every corner anyway, right? But but probably there's space. Probably, as you said, like some places, it's not going to be like cinemas. I don't think so. But yeah, also this idea of $2.3 billion spent on this, sounds like crazy in terms of when you think about like as a civilization, we are like spending like how we allocate capital and effort and time and technology and minds.
It's a lot of money, man, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long it will take them to recoup those costs, if ever. But I mean, 17,000 people, if it's always full and it's Vegas prices, people, they can probably make a lot of money from it. But doing that in like you said, like Stratford or something, it's a different scale, isn't it? Yeah.
And to put U2 on, such a waste of potential as well.
Yeah. What would your take be in terms of the success or failure of this concept? Do you see it taking off, or do you see it staying kind of smaller?
I think I wanted exactly to say what you said. It's a business, right?
Yeah.
So they invested 2.4 billion. At which point they will be like profitable, and can they replicate that across everywhere? And yeah, like maybe on smaller scales. I can see like that happening in smaller scales, or taking the concept and then moving it somewhere else. Like having ideas, for instance, for VR or AR, and can you do the same, but more portable, more like at home, right? So obviously it's not the same scale, and it's like cinema, right? You go to the cinema, you have a massive screen. Like it's hard to get that at home unless you have a villa and you are very rich. But yeah, on smaller scales, more spheres, or like embedded in homes, and more like individual experiences.
The VR mention is very interesting, because I showed this to my wife, and she goes, "Oh, it's like public VR," and it kind of is. It's like VR, but without the screen here. It's just out there.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. But,
Yes. Yeah.
I think what will be interesting as an angle is deconstructing it, because it's not really just one innovation having public VR all around. There's this sense of a couple of other things that make the experience more immersive. I can see those technologies making their way to concert hall, gigs, etc. in the future.
I think that it's going to depend a lot as well in how you use the media, right? Because one thing is like you have the technological capabilities to do like incredible things, but then you have to see how creators use that technology to actually create something that is engaging and that is using things in the right way, right? It's like basically you need to be able to use all those for the devices of wind, temperature, smell, like all these things, and put it together in a way that is like really conveying something, right? It's like, so it's all about how you get the content creators to use that technology. We have to see.
I think this will work really well with like residencies in Vegas, because if someone's booked it out for like, I don't know, 6 months or something, then they can copy and paste that setup, or the wind or the effects. If it's just for like 1 or 2 shows, that's a lot of effort to do that. So I think this will be like a long-term thing. Like U2 will have it for 6 months, and then David Copperfield or something, and it will kind of change hands. But yeah, an interesting point of view. Hey, this podcast is brought to you by WeLoveAlpha.com. If you're looking to grow and hire and scale your software engineering team in the UK, then go to welovealpha.com to hire the best software developers on the market. Everything across Java to C# to PHP to Python to React and Angular and mobile and more. Go to welovealpha.com to hire the best software engineers in the UK now. The next story was all around Zoom in an ironic twist. Zoom have ordered their staff, their workers, back into the office. So the company said that it believed hybrid working was actually the most effective, and people living within 50 miles of an office should work in person at least twice a week. Keen to get your opinions on that. What's your take on Zoom ordering their staff back into the office?
So I think maybe we'll see a permanent difference of styles here. It's a really hard question. It's the kind of question that we constantly tackle, especially in the last couple of years. I think what I would say there is there's some certain talisman of certain industries.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of other people copy. These are the guys who best execute as well. And what you can see across multiple parts of tech is those guys are forcing a return to office, be close to the office type schedule there as well. So I think it's really a sense of that's actually going to be a trend that I think plays out over the next couple of years. I think it's going to be so slow at this point that we won't even notice, but every so often we'll have a big name like this do that. I don't see many going the opposite way in that sense, and I guess it's very telling that Zoom has done so.
Yeah, there are a couple of people that are like still fully remote and work from anywhere, like Airbnb, for example, but they are definitely becoming the exception. Like after COVID, everybody was that way, and then slowly but surely, like more and more companies have just started to go more hybrid.
And I wonder if it's a location-based thing. Airbnb is all about being all over the world, so it seems strange to pack everybody into Space's Basecamp, which sells, or rather 37 Signals, which sells Basecamp. Yeah. That's also emphasizing the fact that people can work and coordinate from anywhere as well. So there might be a very strong part of the market that truly believes in remote and has the discipline to make it work, but most people are going to choose the easy way out, at least from the company's perspective, and I think that's more of a stronger hybrid, full return to office type thing.
Well, you mentioned Basecamp. I've had DHH on the show before, who founded that company. He wrote a great book about remote working, and I know him and his co-founder are very, very focused on people being able to work from anywhere, and it works really well for him. And then you've got the opposite end, like Elon, who's 5 days a week, or 7 days a week probably in his case, everybody working in the office, right? So it's interesting to see the divide really amongst different tech leaders in the space.
Oh, I think Elon Musk is a little bit extreme, right? Sleeping in the office and this kind of stuff. I don't think that's very healthy. But I think it's like on one side it's like it opened the Pandora box, all this stuff of like basically people working remotely, and it's very difficult now to say, okay, now this is almost like a human right. Yeah. In a way, like it's very difficult to remove, to take away from people, and I think it makes sense, especially around software development. I can see like you need a space, you need like a space and time in which you can deeply focus on what you're working on, and it makes complete sense to be on your own and find a space in which you are, that is something comfortable for you to work in a way that you can actually deliver results. At the same time, at the same time, you need the other space. You need the space in which you need to collaborate and be able to talk with people and find new ideas and do brainstorming and all these kind of things that is very difficult when you do it remotely. And there's all these kind of casual encounters that happen in an office. Like, I think
you don't have them at home, do you?
It's very difficult to replicate with Zoom. I don't know. So I think probably, from my perspective, you need both, and I think the hybrid model is much fruitful and makes much more sense that this mandatory thing. But I can understand this idea that they want to push back a little bit and bring people to the office because of this idea of identity, of the culture of the company, right? Yeah. It's very difficult to create or to maintain the idea. Maybe you don't see the effects when you just started with the pandemic and all this stuff. But after a while, after years of this thing of everyone working remotely, how do you keep a culture, the culture of the company? It's a real thing.
Yeah, and if Zoom are doing it, then maybe it's an indicator, perhaps, that hybrid is a great way of doing it. But I really believe it does come down to the company, the culture. Every business is probably quite different, and a hybrid works really well for us. But what about on your side, Paolo? What was your opinion when you saw that story?
So at a global level, like for the entire company, it's all about productivity, right?
Yeah.
So I think all the news and all the companies are telling we are more productive, we are more effective in a company, in an office, rather than like at home.
Yeah.
And that may be possible, but you have like all the issues, with also, like sometimes for people it's better to work from home. Like I can think of people who have children. I have children, for instance, so it's
Me
great.
too.
So I can just I do my work and then I just stop at 5 or 5:30 or whatever. I pick them from school, come back, and then I don't lose this time like traveling and etc. But there are a lot of discussions, but at a more like local level, like at Confer, we actually are fully remote.
Okay.
So it was like since the beginning, right?
Yeah, sure.
We decided that. So everything is in place. So the tech, like the culture, everything is in place to make sure we can work remotely. But we realize sometimes, we are missing this human connection with your coworkers. There is something like you cannot replicate when you are like all together, like in a pub discussing, and then you just like discuss like this, right? It's just about like discussing all around like news and tech and extra, and so that's why we have this. We gather once every 2 weeks, so at least we see each other.
Yeah.
But in our company, at least it's working very well, remote working, because we have all the tools. Everything is digital. Like this morning, I had like a workshop with 5 other people, and I was like doing drawings, digital drawings, and it worked very well. So
cool.
it's all about like what culture you want to have,
Absolutely.
and how you are more efficient.
And I think the fact that you guys meet up every couple of weeks, even if it's just briefly, it still will keep that energy alive a little bit more, as opposed to if you're all completely distributed globally. That's a lot harder, obviously, to keep that energy going. I've got people in freelancers that are basically part of the team that work in Bangladesh and Pakistan and the Philippines, and it's so hard to like keep up like the energy sometimes when you've never met them in person. So I definitely agree with what you're saying. Like every couple of weeks, connect over a beer or something. What about you two? Do you do hybrid, remote, in the office? What's your setup?
So where I am at the moment, the leadership positions, there's a much more strong office kind of bias towards that. And then in terms of individual contributors, it's very much a freer sort of angle there. And really, we have people who prefer to be in the office 4 or 5 days a week, the kind of really collaborative types. And then there's others who just say, minimize my meetings, I just want to sit down and code. And you think there's, if you have that range of attitudes, there's a place for everybody in a team like that as well. So I think we're quite flexible.
Okay.
And see how it goes.
Have you got a similar setup, Matt?
It's basically the same. And and I think one thing it's super important is like given that this is the case, we need to change the settings in offices, right? Like the use of offices should be different. You shouldn't use the office in the traditional way in which people go and sit in the desk. I mean, you still need that because some people want to go there and work every day from there, and they need to have a space. But I think it's an opportunity to create these collaborative spaces and discover new architectures that are basically helping that direction. Yeah. So I think I haven't seen much of that yet, but I think we should go in that direction.
I agree. But offices definitely have changed a lot, just in our careers. Like, I don't know if you guys ever worked in like cubicles with like sliders, and I remember that was not fun. And then we went fully open plan, and then like nobody got any work done because everyone's just like shooting Nerf guns at each other. And then it went, maybe just me, but and then it went to more like what you're describing, like almost like that sort of divide, like a bridge between the two, where you've got little pods for working, similar to what we do with our WeWork situation and that sort of thing, right? So yeah, it's interesting to see how they're developing, and I think that's a really good point. Like the companies that don't develop and they're stuck with perhaps just fully open plans, or open plans are dangerous in 2023, 2024, because if nobody's there, it feels a little bit miserable. Whereas the sliders, the closed off areas, you could equally have the same argument, right? If you're siloed off, then it doesn't matter if you're in an office, you could be working from home. So finding that balance is quite important.
Actually on this, I think this is why it's interesting, is we have the approach of trying to make the office interesting, right? Entertaining. So it's not like you have to come, right? It's more like, all right, let's gather together. It will be fun. We're gonna have a great day. We're gonna maybe do some meetings collaboratively. We make sure we do that. And at the end we have the pub and etc. So try to make the office interesting so people want like to come.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same idea of like, you know, the Silicon Valley where Facebook or Google, they offer like free food and etc. And they have hotels now, like
unlimited perks.
Unlimited perks. So
coming.
people just come, right?
Yeah.
They want to come because they have these perks, obviously. So I think it's the approach, trying to make the office relevant to the work and to the culture of the company.
We'll go to Tesla for our next clip. So this is a very, very, very interesting development that we've talked about on the show before, but there's been a recent update. This is Optimus, also known as the Tesla bot, which is Elon Musk's general purpose robot, and is expected to launch in the next few years. And with this new update, it can now identify and separate different colours. You can see it on the screen now. For those listening on audio, now would be a great time to turn on the video. And this is not some CGI, this is an actual humanoid robot separating colours into different boxes based on what it's seeing with its, I want to say eyes, but video cameras, I guess would be the more technical term, right? And also it can now do yoga, which is kind of cool, which is definitely not needed, but it's like the Boston Dynamics thing with the dogs dancing and all of that stuff. It's great from a marketing perspective, right? What are your, I know we're deviating from Zoom to Optimus, right? But what are your takes when you see this? We'll start with yourself, Matt. We haven't gone to you to begin with yet. What's your opinion when you see what Elon's doing here?
I mean, in a way, I think it's great that you have competition and you have all these different companies working towards this, because I think it's definitely there's like a lot of use cases that are clear, that are useful, that are going to help humanity in a way, like, I don't know, like going into dangerous places and dealing with these things instead of sending people, sending a robot that can basically do things probably at some point very soon in a better way and with more precision, etc. So that makes complete sense. I mean, then there's all this transition that you have in which, like, if that happens and they start basically, and this thing can replace humans in many different things, like the usual discussion on okay, how we're going to deal with people, unemployment, or these things, like more like a social issue in terms of how to deal with that. But I mean, it makes sense to replace all this kind of manual work and stuff with something more interesting or things that people can focus on. It's just like it's a little bit painful in the short term. I think there was this thing that they were discussing at some point, the carriage drivers, when the car appeared, and people were saying about, well, now what's going to happen with the carriage drivers, like I don't know how they're called, and then they disappeared. There's no such thing, but I don't think it was like such a big loss for humanity. I don't know. That's my
No, I get what you're saying. Like, jobs will always get replaced, and that's just the nature of innovation and technology, right? We went from horses and carts to cars to now, self-driving vehicles driving us around. So it'll be an interesting transition with low-skilled, manual tasks which could be automated, really.
I think I'm a skeptic in terms of the practical applicability at the moment. To me, it's a bit like self-driving cars or last-mile drone delivery. Works perfectly well in a controlled environment, looks pretty cool, and it gets people excited. But the real world is a noisy, chaotic, kind of disorganized place. And so seeing those technologies out there in the real world, to me, that's the real acid test. And I fear we might be in a situation where, yes, self-driving cars are so close, so near, but they haven't solved the real gnarly problems of the actual circumstances they encounter in the real world. I like a self-driving car, if it's being used in a new city, which all the blueprints are being uploaded to the vehicle, so it knows what to do, and almost the streets are being built for it. Amazing. It's a sort of square grid format.
Exactly.
In American city.
But then you go to like Italy, to some really old street which has been there and this little bumpy and everything. That's when this kind of thing becomes a little bit harder to do. I can see this robot falling down some very pretty stairs at some point because it hasn't, you know...
With Italian drivers as well. Sorry.
Good point, yeah. But what's your take, Paolo, when you see this?
So first, it's like an amazing technology, right? It is a beauty technology. Like when you look at it, like just balancing a robot, this is like super hard. You have to like you need to detect, you need like all the hands. Also, like it's super hard to replicate. So in terms of like robotics hardware, I mean there are like two things, right? There's the robotics, the hardware. I mean, like AI, we're still. I mean, this is very rudimentary. So AI like needs to progress, right? But I'm a big fan of Asimov, and you know this world where like Asimov was like a more utopist, right?
Yes.
Like more than dystopist. It was like before the dystopia in cyberpunk, and he imagined like iRobot, right? Where each one of us would have its own robot, you know, like this, like exactly almost the same shape and colors, and everyone would have its own like robots to help them like in everyday tasks, right? And I think that's hopefully it is where we go, right? Because right now the technology and AI and robotics is very concentrated, very centralized by big corporations. So hopefully it will be like more available to everyone, because I think it could be a massive change. Like if each one of us would have a robot. Obviously, like we talk about economics and job loss and etc. And we are not ready yet. Our models right now in terms of like economics, the world, how we govern, etc., is not ready for these kind of things. But hopefully we're gonna evolve in the right way, like Asimov dreamt about. So the utopia where we could have access to this technology and then just make humanity better overall.
Well, I hope we get there, like we adjust quickly, because if these can really, really work and you can get, you know, a couple of them, then it's only going to take, it will take this long to build 1 million of them, but it will take this long to build 1 billion, because they'll build each other and it'll self-replicate basically. One thing that concerns me a little bit with these is you mentioned around centralization just there, and that's a really good point, because what if you've got 100 million of these out there on the streets, you know, robot policemen, security guards, in offices, in retail, in all environments, and then somebody hacks them, and then they've got vision. If you see a flesh-like human, something that's non-robotic, you know, kill it, you know, and that's the instruction that's given. If it's centralized, which it is, I mean, hacking happens, it can happen, it will happen. Hopefully not on that scale, but does that keep any of you up at night worrying and thinking about that, or is it just me? What do you think?
Well, I think there's a whole industry in computer security, and I think for a very good reason, because people cut corners. People want to get to market, and what's the first thing that's traded off? Security, I would think, most of the time as well. So I think there's a real sense of it's a good concern to have. It's a little bit premature perhaps, but it's also us discovering this new technology, its different applications, let's say in terms of large language models, also a kind of relevant thing there. We're not quite sure how they act, how they behave, and so it's interesting to invent things that we don't fully understand. And I think that's the kind of angle that will probably keep us up at night, because there can be all sorts of unintended consequences. Obviously, Asimov's iRobot, the famous premise of that plot is the interaction between rules there as well. So I think maybe it's a bit more intellectual, but that's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night.
You mentioned around centralization there. So what do you think of when I say the hacking side? Is it something that worries you? I mean, look, someone could hack me right now, you know, but it's a different scale if you've got something that can physically do harm to somebody. What's your opinion on that?
I think that it's, as Matt mentioned, it's all about like the layers of security, right? It's different layers, and I mean, today we power entire banks and etc. Like around, like everything is digital, right? So I've got my phone, and all my life is digital, right? And we're not that concerned about like hacking, you know. Even like our governments, like they have the passport and etc. And they have a very good system. Obviously, hacking is happening, right? And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and we need to be aware of. But if we introduce the right layers of security, maybe there are like several, you know, cut-off at each stage. I don't know, like something, again, like I have no idea how to do it, right?
A kill switch.
But a kill switch, exactly. But if we have kill switch at different stages, like that's why it needs to be designed now. And I think that's what a lot of like people and proponents and governments and privacy, they are thinking about that now. Like they say, don't wait for everything to be produced, like it's a nice POC, but we need to think about these things now. So like, let's say, how can we, for instance, implement the 3 laws of robotics right now, right, to make sure it will never harm a human. So again, it's very philosophical, but it's something that should be very practical and look at right now. So that's why I'm not too concerned. I think we can find a way of securing, like having secure like robots, and make sure like nothing goes wrong. And I mean, in a sense, something will get wrong. It always goes wrong, right? And then it's a matter of accepted risk, right? At which point we think that cars are killing people, right? So, like, should we stop cars? Maybe not. So it's all about a balance and accepted risks.
It's that Swiss cheese model of robustness. If the holes line up, then that's the perfect storm of interacting factors. But hopefully, you build enough less holy Swiss cheese, I suppose, that it doesn't line up in that sense.
What's your view?
Yeah, I mean, there's this, what is it, the 3 rules of robotics, right? What's it called? Like, yes, I think, we need to get there basically with, or to some framework that works and that is, but it's difficult because as you were saying, right, the companies don't care about this thing, they want to get first to market, so you need to basically, the important thing is that we are thinking about that, and I think people have been thinking about that from, I don't know, probably the 50s or the 60s. In a way. So, I mean, you have all these moral and legal issues like this thing, for instance, this typical example of the car that you are in a car driving and then something happens and there are people there and the self-driving car needs to decide if it's going to go over the people there or crash and turn left or turn right, turn left or turn right and crash and kill the person inside of the car. Basically, that's a decision in which there's no other option but to kill someone, basically. And then how do you make such a decision, right? It's like, I don't know, there's a lot of super interesting problems. I think we are progressing on that line, on those lines as we progress with technology. There's always this thing, but it's scary because basically technology is going super fast, and we are accelerating in terms of the knowledge and what we know, like around the last 20 years in comparison with the last 100 years, or what the progress we made in the last 1,000 years is like brutal, right? So it's like we have to accelerate there. Anyway, in terms of not being able to sleep at night, I think I'm more worried about atomic bombs still. It's a very old problem, but still.
On the legal side, it's very interesting because, like, in cars, self-driving cars, we sell it's the owner is still legally responsible. So if each one of us has a robot, and the robot does harm or anything, who is responsible?
And what clause does every end user license agreement contain? We can't be held.
Read the T's and C's. I think you have to in that situation.
So where does attribution of risk happen in that point? Is it up to the manufacturer? Because these things will crash every day. It's just a statistical certainty. And so that's going to be a really interesting angle to see how we evolve to react to that problem.
Hey, really quick video just to give you a free subscription to Coder magazine. Coder is the #1 publication for all the latest tech news, expert insights, and exclusive industry interviews. With Coder, you get the inside scoop on what's happening with Elon Musk, with Bill Gates, with Jeff Bezos, with Mark Zuckerberg, and so much more. So if you work in the technology industry, then I'd highly recommend that you give Coder a read today. Just scan the QR code on the screen for free access now, or go to welovealpha.com/magazine to get your free subscription today. Okay. Something that we haven't talked about a lot on the show recently is crypto, but something quite interesting has been happening these past couple of weeks, which is worth mentioning. So OpenAI's Sam Altman launches WorldCoin. For those that don't know Sam, he is obviously the genius behind GPT, the fastest growing product, service, whatever in history. So ChatGPT's creator has revealed his new crypto venture. Scan your eye with the orb, which is being shown on the screen right now, to get your blockchain world ID. This is your digital passport, which proves you are a human and not an AI bot. So quite nice to tee this one up after Mr. Elon's venture. But what are your thoughts on WorldCoin, on the orb, on this new idea of having a blockchain passport identity linked to each individual human? What's your take, Paolo, to kick us off?
So my first thought would be, here we go again, another crypto, another coin. Why not?
That's what the world needs.
Yes. Yes. No, I think the concept is interesting.
Okay.
Right. So the nature of the concept, like having a digital ID, is important. But I don't think it would need like a private company doing that themselves, right? But like the hardware, for instance, scanning your iris. I mean, it's all about like digital attributes, like what defines you and what is attached to you, and how can we make sure it's you and not somebody else.
Yeah.
And so that's why like scanning an iris, or like we got the passport with the fingerprints. There are so many ways of like how to already do that. Yeah. Put it back in the blockchain, why not? I mean, a government is using passport and it's not on blockchain, it's working well, right? I mean, there are the philosophical thing where decentralized is better than centralized in terms of like governance and etc. But I think where I'm skeptical the most is usage. So yes, we can capture identity, we can prove technically it's there, it's great, it's amazing, but who's gonna use it, right? Maybe it's websites will use it. I don't know. Facebook could integrate, to make sure that the users are real users. Elon Musk with X.
Yeah.
But would government use it? I don't think so, unless there is like a RFP. There is plenty of things to do before government can use it. So it's not about the takeoff and the usage, like who is going to use what is on the actual blockchain rather than the tech itself.
That's a really good point, because social media companies, I can very well see like something like X having your verified tick and then having like a WorldCoin tick or something perhaps in the future, or some version of that to prove you're a human, because it's not going to take long until there's more bots online than humans, if not already. So how it's an important question of identity, right? How do we determine those people? The government angle is very interesting, and I don't know what the use case there will be, apart from, you mentioned passports they're working fine. I guess you can make fake passports, can't you? And I don't know how to do it myself, but I'm sure you could do it. Whereas with this, unless you had like an identical eye, or you took somebody else's eyeball or something, then it'll be hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, it worries me the aspect, there's a private company owning something so delicate and sensitive as like information from everyone in the world, right? And then there's this, I mean, all these big problems that needs to be solved, basically back again to this theme of the technology goes very fast, and then you need to solve things around it from the legislative or law perspectives, or all these different kind of domains. Like how do you deal with the fact that, privacy issues if you're being exposed, your identity is being exposed to different actors that you don't know how they're going to be using this, or the fact that you are protected as a citizen of a country by certain laws, but then if this is completely outside of every country, of most countries, because it's like a private company that probably, follows the rules of one country, or in a way, this information could be used in crazy ways. Like, I don't know. It's like always, you never know. So I guess again, it's these multilateral agreements between countries to be able to deal with these kind of problems. I don't know. It's kind of complicated.
If you look at the structure of WorldCoin and the foundation, it's very shady. It's in the Cayman Island.
Oh, really?
That doesn't give you
and then the WorldCoin token is not accessed to in every country, so you need to access the VPN to get to Puerto. I don't know.
Yeah,
this is very shady. The structure in itself.
And it's OpenAI. What's the name of the company? OpenAI. Was it? No. What is it? OpenAI that supposedly began like this association to deal with AI and helping, and then it turned into a private enterprise that is making massive profit, and it's like with
closed AI,
completely closed AI. So it's like it doesn't give you a lot of trust. I don't know.
What's your take?
I'm going to play the skeptic here. I think it's to put it politely, a fascinating idea. For me, it's a question of identity. I mean, is the central problem here that we want to prove people are human? Because to go and take data that's very hard to replace. I don't think eye transplants are very much mainstream yet. So what happens if that data is leaked? You have lost the ability to control your identity, your chain of trust forever. So, putting the thoughts of those aside, what's wrong with captures? Why can't we just keep on using those? Those seem to work well enough. So cool orb and everything else like that. But I see this as being a little on the gimmicky side, and it's one of those things which is a sort of, to me, it's an over-engineered solution. There are other ways to prove that kind of trust. I think it hits upon the right topic, though, which is trust in a deepfake world is something that's going to become pretty elusive. We can't just take things at face value anymore. So I kind of appreciate the direction it's going in.
If you each had to predict, like, succeed or fail, like we did with the Sphere, do you feel like in a decade from now, everybody's going to have a digital blockchain passport, or do you think it will just go away, like one of many ideas, and we'll all stick to what we currently have? What do you think?
How many people have passports at the moment? It's certainly less than 100%, and it really depends on which country you go to as well. So I think no idea ever achieves 100% adoption. There's always going to be some small resistance. That just seems to be the way that humans are. So I think there will be a certain community that uses it, and I think they'll see it as the solution to everything. That strikes me to be a lot like crypto.
You don't think it will be the majority? You think it will be a... Okay.
I would still play the skeptic there, I think.
Okay, what do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think the same. I think, to be honest, I think they will find so many restrictions and people going against this from, citizens to governments to... So it's like it's going to be a real struggle to implement this and to make it really work at the worldwide level. And I was thinking about the movie. I think there's a movie, the science fiction movie, in which there's something like they're going around with trafficked eyeballs, basically, just to use them to identify. Which is like a
James Bond movies, you cut the finger.
So I hope I don't want to see that. Really, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, it's hard for Sam Altman to do anything after GPT, because that was such a success that anything else he's done by parallel is just going to be a complete failure. But what's your opinion on the chance of this scaling? What do you think?
So at the moment, EU governments are with the UK also actually I confirm we are part of the discussions on this. Are trying to do a digital wallet. So it's gonna happen.
Like a CD.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe we will replace the passport. I mean, there are a lot of governments that really want to know your identity online, and see. So I think it's gonna happen. I don't think it will be WorldCoin, but it's gonna happen in another form, and if it's guaranteed by the government, and there is a lot of revision and screening by different organisms. And charities, etc. I think, it will happen.
Yeah, which scares me to one degree. The government owning your money digitally, and they can press a button if they don't like what you say or do, and then you don't have access to it. That could be, difficult, but we'll have to see what happens.
It's about trust again.
Yeah. One thing which kind of is completely the opposite of trust is our last topic, which is all around deep fakes. Okay, so. Mr. Beast is been in the news, not for anything that he's done or said or happened, something which the complete opposite of actually. So Mr. Beast has been involved in an iPhone deepfake scam where the AI created fake video shows the world's biggest YouTuber offering people new iPhones for $2. Many people are saying it will soon become impossible to know if a video online is real or not. I'm not sure if you managed to watch the video, but I could tell it was fake, but I feel like somebody who perhaps is a kid or maybe an elderly person watching it, it'd be very hard for them to tell. It was like a TikTok video, and the voice was him saying, hey, click below and you get an iPhone for a couple of dollars or something. And in reality, that was a scam to collect, card details or whatever. Interesting though, right? To see where deepfakes are going and what's going to happen. What are your takes on this?
No, I think it's about education, right? Like you have people learning to distinguish, and that's why the focus on education is so important. You need to educate people so they are smart enough to understand that this has to be a scam, that no one's going to give you an iPhone for $2 or whatever. Sure. That it's understanding and seeing these kind of things, these technical aspects of sometimes you see something like a person with 3 hands or something like, or a third eye somewhere, and you have to be able to see that is a trick and understand the context of when they're saying or what they're saying and why this could be not real, right? But in a way, this is in the context of a much bigger problem, which is can you believe or trust the media in general. It doesn't have to be a deep fake. It can be like these big corporations that own like I don't know how many media outlets and they're like basically defining the narrative about the news and how they want to what they want to portray or how to interpret
that's
the
real.
news.
That's very
and that
real.
that's been happening forever, and
Yeah.
that is the worrying thing. That's the worrying thing. I think it's like a much bigger problem, and it's all about education. I don't know.
There's these compilation videos on YouTube of news reporters saying exactly the same thing, word by word, line by line, tone by tone, and it's just crazy. Like it's like because what happens is if you have a big news corporation like Fox or something, you have all the local affiliates. And if they're given the script and it kind of, goes down to them all, you've got loads of different presenters, each saying exactly the same thing. It starts to look very, very spooky.
That's
like you're
scary.
pushing a
That's
narrative.
really scary, yes.
Yeah.
And that is the most obvious example, right? It's a grotesque example in which you see how obvious, how real this thing is,
that's
right?
not
But
even
it's like
deep fake.
there's more subtle things. Like it's
That's
happening
real,
all
though.
the time.
Yeah. Like this is like, forget what the legacy media would say. This is somebody who is known for being generous and giving stuff away. I mean, it's Mr. Beast. That's his thing. I'm going to give you something for free. So they picked the perfect target to make this video with. And like you said, if it is too good to be true, then it probably is. But there are some people in the population that would fall for this. What's your take, Paolo, when you see this video?
Yes, to bounce on what you said, Juan. Basically, the problem is some people are still falling for emails, scams, where you're like, I'm a Nigerian prince or whatever, and then I'm gonna like have a bank account. So people are still clicking on those emails. So
Wait, that's not real. I haven't won the lottery. What?
Sorry.
Yeah, Nigerian
so-
prince is a very that's the most famous example, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and with the deepfake, it's harder and harder to find those issues, right? I think we are tech people, so we have the eye for it, right? We feel for it, like we have a sense, right?
Detail oriented as well.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, as you said, like Mr. Beats is like a lot of his videos around giving away free stuff. So he's the perfect example. But like others, like Tom Hanks, for instance, where he has an advert for like a dentist, something like that.
Yeah.
He never did it. So that's on a smaller scale an issue, right? It's still an issue, right? But yes, it will be more and more complicated, and it will be a cat and mouse problem, right? Like there are already like companies that are working on how can we find it's deep fake, and then they'll manage to mark it's a deepfake, and then the deepfake will find another way. So it will be like a race to see which one is
The
like
marking
the best.
though, it makes me nervous because who's fact checking the fact checkers? Like who's deciding what is real? Like and who are they? Like they're a private company probably, which makes me nervous as well.
I guess in a way the platforms are kind of trying to deal with this thing, with this blue check or whatever, these kind of things that are basically saying, okay, this person is who we know it's a validated, we check that this person is this real person or this source or whatever. Like, so in a way we need to get that from platforms. You have to trust them in a way.
Okay, what's your take?
Yeah, I think for me it's about chain of trust. Now we've talked about it being the publisher who's trusted, a Twitter, tick, whatever color. It is these days, what I would say here is it's almost like you want to treat every video you see as unverified. But of course, public figures, Tom Hanks, for example, does publish his own videos. And if he verifies that that's the case, then I think you have a format where you can solve it in one way. It's a bit like how we solved the problem of encrypting traffic to, for credit card payments and everything else like that. That's a solved problem. It's a very centralized one because there are about 3 or 4 companies in the world that deal with that verification. Much easier to do for websites and other things like that because you can automate a lot of what's involved as well. I wonder if there's a similar level of effort, probably more, for this kind of verify publisher, verify video type thing. And then you would look at a video and your browser or whatever it would be would say, you can't trust this video because it's unverified. I think approaching it from the other way around might be an interesting way to tackle this.
Okay.
But at the same time, I would try to avoid make it completely like illegal, the deepfake, because you can use it like in the cinema industry, for instance. Like why not like when you hire like a bunch of people to do like in the background, like AI is already good, and CGI is really good, right?
Yeah.
But if you can do deepfake sometimes, and you can sell your image, right? That would be interesting.
Bruce Willis already has.
Yes.
So he has some illness, and he's not able to make movies anymore. So he sold the rights to his face to an AI company, a production company, who are going to be continuing making movies of him forever, which is great. He's a great actor, right? But it's obviously not him. But, well, it is him. But is it him? I don't know.
It's very interesting, yeah. The thing with the albums that I think they were doing some Beatles.
Yeah, well, we did a story on it.
I think it's fantastic.
They've got one final Beatles song coming. It's not quite AI generated. It's like AI polished. They've like found old like recordings of John Lennon, which no one's ever heard, but they're really, really grainy, and so they've put on some AI spice to make it pop, and yeah, so it's interesting to see it being used in the creative world, right? Yeah.
But I think it maybe is switching attitudes from I can trust what I'm seeing to I can't trust what I'm seeing until proven otherwise as well. And maybe that's a more general change that's only starting to happen.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess last question for you all then, around that trust element. How long do you think it will be until you can type in, you know, I want this person to say this script. And you can pick the actor. I want Tom Hanks. I want, you know, Elon Musk, I want Mr. Beast, I want whoever, and then click generate, and it will instantly generate a video which is completely identical to the real thing, and you can't tell the difference. And then that could be posted, reposted, and forget, you know, verification marks. If it's on someone's TikTok feed, they're not going into it and fact checking every single thing they see online. So how long do you think it will be? If you had to predict, are we saying a year? Are we saying 5 years? Are we saying 10 years? Are we saying never, until we can replace genuine videos with deep fakes that are identical? What would each of your guesstimates be?
I mean, I have the impression that the technology is already there. I don't know. I think I haven't played much with it, but I think it's actually possible now.
But right now it takes a lot of work. Well, I imagine they've got to go into specialist
like
software. I'm talking
or...
because when this becomes available to anybody on a scale, when somebody makes an app called, you know, you can just AI avatar, and you can say anything you want, any script, any tone. You can pick angry, sad, tired, scared. You can have other actors come in. How long do you think that will take? If I guess started this, I would say like very, very soon, like probably within a year or two, like you're gonna have that out there.
Yeah. Same, I would say like in a year, because you have like all those image generation already that are there and that have APIs.
Yeah.
ChatGPT has an API.
Yeah.
So because everything is API based now, so
it's linking it together.
Now it's a matter of like, so there are still some issues, quirks. You know, you can see like you talked about like the free hands, or like the fingers also. It's like
the
really hard to
the big one on DALL-E and
or
Midjourney.
like some grammatical like issues sometimes with. But yeah, it's like it's very soon, right? And there is like already David Guetta, who made also like a false fit with Eminem. I think I don't remember if it was with
like
permission.
A fake music video.
Yeah, exactly. So so yeah, it's already there, right? So as you said, like,
and it's the worst it will ever be.
Soon.
It's never going to get worse. Like AI, it's just always going to get better and better and better. It's not going backwards.
Yeah, they're going to solve these little problems and things and issues, and it's all a matter of integration. That's what I'm saying. I think the technology is already there.
Yeah.
It's like the main hurdles that they went through, and it's done. So basically, in terms of like you say the script, and basically you say, okay, I want this person to say this, but not only I want them to say this, I want to say them to say this in the way in which they say these kind of things.
Yeah.
So basically, because they speak in certain ways, using certain tones, certain words, and certain idiomatic phrases or whatever. So basically, and you can get there. There are things like avatars that are basically reproducing or talking in the way that certain people talk, because they analyze their speech and the way they speak it from every perspective, basically. So you can get that together with the videos and how people move around.
We're all of the same opinion. A couple of years, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Absolutely, it's the next stage in generative content. So it'll be the next big thing. We'll talk about it for 6 months, and then it's going to be seen as much more about helping to generate ideas, compose things together. You know, it's not going to have quite the same effect as, say, ChatGPT did, but we get, I think, the concept of then the limits, hopefully, of generative content in that sense now. But yeah, at this point in time, we don't know if the text we read on the internet is ChatGPT generated or human generated as well, it'll start to be the same sort of problem for audio and video. And of course, as we've said, that's much more insidious as a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. Is this video real? Who knows? Am I here? I don't know. You'll have to check out next week's episode to find out. Okay. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for watching this podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc., etc. And I'll see you in the next episode.